createbetterwriters.com.
Hi, here's a tour of the several mini books we have here at createbetterwriters.com. I'll also be reviewing the bundles, and for the homeschool teachers, I'll be reviewing the Homeschool Writing Action Plan as well. This tour is a bit lengthy, so here are the timestamps for each book, so that if there's something specific you're interested in, you could jump right to it or jump to the next book when you've heard enough about the book you're on. So let's get started. Hi. If you're just looking for specific skills to teach, I took sections from standards-based grammar, Common Core-based language, and Writing Tricks Plus, and I chopped them up into short lessons based on different topics. Except for the first one there that you're seeing is the sentence diagramming. Now, this is a book I just kind of threw on the website. It's something I did as a quick journal activity, and it's very raw. It's not flashy. It's a bunch of worksheets. I just threw it on because I had it. Oddly, it's become one of the top sellers. I guess teachers love it and they tell others about it because it really teaches the students how to look at a sentence and how a sentence is put together. If you're a middle school teacher, even high school teacher, and you've tried teaching writing, you probably discovered that many middle and high schoolers still don't know what makes a sentence a sentence. What are the pieces? So it really helps students focus on what is a sentence and how to build stronger, longer sentences without becoming run-on sentences or fragment sentences. So the rest of the books, like I said, I took the grammar series and Writing Tricks Plus, and I broke them into topics. So you can see there's capitalization rules. That has a fun little trick on how to remember the many, many different things that you should capitalize or not. What you do is you give the students a pretest from the beginning of this book. Then you correct the pretest together and give the students this worksheet. And this worksheet will be a tool for them to see what capitalization rules they know and which capitalization rules they don't know. So what they do is they take the questions that they missed and they could match the question that they missed with the rule. So for example, you can see here you're supposed to capitalize languages. So if the students missed either 7 or 15 or 25 or all three of them, the students would circle those numbers, and then if they miss any one of those three or any of the questions on that rule, they would mark needs work on that item. Then, before you do any worksheet, you have them take this paper out. They could review which rules do I really need to pay attention to. Then as they do the worksheet, they're hyper-focused on their problem areas. So this is a really powerful way to help the students see exactly what they know and exactly what they need to work on. And the best thing about this capitalization book is it's got an excellent little tool to help you teach the students how to keep track of the so many different capitalization rules. So it's going to show you how to make two different pictures. One picture is to help remember the rules that should be capitalized, and the other picture is to help them remember what words should not be capitalized. So when the students are doing the worksheet, they have these two pictures in their minds, or they could actually have them out in front of them until it gets burned into their brains on exactly what they should and should not capitalize. So the picture really comes in handy. For example, if you look at geographical locations from the do capitalize list and then directions from the don't capitalize list, these are words that are on both lists. Sometimes you capitalize them and sometimes you don't. So the students would have to look at the picture to know, well, directions like north, south, east, and west, typically they're not capitalized.
But if they are part of a geographical location, such as North Dakota or South America, in those cases, you would capitalize them. So it's kind of like a title. And the pictures give a very clear example of when you should capitalize geographical locations and when you should not capitalize words if they're just directions. You can see here is an example of a worksheet, and it has one of my issues that still to this day, my brain wants to capitalize the seasons: spring, summer, winter, fall. I'm never confident when I'm spelling those words because my brain just wants to capitalize them. And so what the picture shows is on the don't capitalize list, oh, there's the season: spring, summer, winter, fall. Everybody's going to have issues with something in grammar, and there's a lot of places in capitalization rules for that to happen. These pictures really take the confusion out of what you should capitalize and what you shouldn't capitalize. You could also see on this worksheet another tricky area: diseases. Do you capitalize names of diseases? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. The pictures are going to help with that. So this mini book on capitalization is a really fun way to learn the capitalization rules. The next one, fragment run-on sentences. Like I said, with sentence diagramming, even middle schoolers have trouble with what's a complete sentence, what's not a sentence. You can see from the table of contents, the students are going to learn the difference between a phrase, a clause, and a sentence. Now, clauses will have subjects and predicates, but may still be fragment sentences. And a sentence might have multiple subjects and predicates, but it may or may not be a run-on. So how can the students tell the difference? This book teaches the students exactly what makes a sentence a sentence. Then they can build on those sentences and recognize when their sentences are either running on or if it's just a fragment piece of a sentence. From there, the students are going to be asked to take what they've learned about phrases, clauses, and sentences and learn to identify fragment and run-on sentences. They will also be asked to rewrite fragment and run-on sentences and turn them into complete sentences. So here's an extension which makes a great journal activity where students need to add subjects or predicates to turn fragment sentences into sentences. There's lots of journal extensions like this to help burn this concept into the students' brains. And here's another worksheet where students need to fix run-on sentences. It's a very common mistake for emerging writers to put and or and then. They really just need to put a period. So I always tell them that the period means and, or the period means and then. The reader knows you're moving on to a new idea when you put a period. So they just need to get confidence knowing that putting a period does tell the reader you're moving on to a new thought. Okay, the next mini book, root words. I talked about root words in the Common Core-based language video. I absolutely love this part of Common Core-based language as well, but you can get this as a mini book. This is especially good for the advanced students. With the advanced students, you could give them as homework assignments, projects. Really, the sky's the limit. And once the students learn how to study root words, they're learning how to learn. The advanced students will just take it and it'll become a lifelong skill. So you see there's parts of speech, there's a primary edition, and then a secondary edition where it goes beyond just the basic definitions. It goes into more complex areas of the parts of speech. For example, you can see here in the table of contents that the primary edition covers basic verbs, while the secondary edition will dive deeper into perfect tenses, like past perfect tenses, present perfect tenses, and future perfect tenses. This can really benefit the students when they study other languages. Understanding perfect tenses might make learning other languages easier, as conjugating verbs can get pretty intense when you're studying other languages. So you can see in this worksheet here from the primary edition, there are lots of great tricks to help burn the definitions of the parts of speech into their memories. There's so much vocabulary and grammar for the students to learn. They really need tricks to get these definitions planted in their brains. So you can see on this worksheet, for the verb, it's real simple. You have the students make a V with their fingers. V stands for verb. Then you turn your hand upside down and cross the V with your finger and you make an A. Then you turn your two fingers to the right or left, and then you add a stem with that finger and you make an F. What you're doing is you make a V for verb, turn it upside down and make an A, then make an F, and V stands for verb. Verb is an A action word, or it states a fact. You have the students repeat that each time you start the worksheets on verbs and review it once in a while. By the time they take the test, they know that a verb is an action word or states a fact. And the worksheets will show that the facts are also called to be verbs: is, are, was, were, and be. So the primary grade worksheets are really good about burning the definitions of the parts of speech into the students' brains. Now you can see this worksheet from the secondary edition. The students get to see how perfect tense verbs tell exactly when an action is taking place. We give you an example of mom shopping. So let's say yesterday I needed mom to get me a book, but she had finished shopping. Well, when we use the perfect tense had finished, we know that I needed the book in the past yesterday, and she had already finished shopping before the time I needed the book. So it's very specific, both when I needed the book and when mom had finished shopping. So in the present tense, we could say, I need a book now, but mom has finished shopping. So has finished shopping is the perfect tense. Well, it sounds like we just missed her. She was out shopping as we speak in the present, and we just missed her. She has finished shopping. Then with the perfect tense, you can again see how specific the perfect tense is. If you say something like, I will need mom to get me a book after school, but she will have finished shopping by then. So this is a future perfect tense. I will need the book tomorrow after school, but by that point in the future, mom will have finished shopping by then. So perfect tenses help give an exact specific time when an action is taking place. So the secondary edition will dive much deeper into the concepts, obviously, than the primary edition will. And they are both excellent resources to help students learn the parts of speech. Next, you can see sentence writing primary edition, and then there's sentence writing secondary edition. The primary edition expands on fragment sentence and run-on sentences. It helps emerging writers learn what makes a sentence, and the ways different sentences are used. Then the students will learn to use a variety of sentence structures as they learn to write 3 types of sentences: the simple sentence, compound sentences, and complex sentences. Now, the secondary edition will do all that as well. It also adds the compound complex sentence. And the great thing about both of these books is it requires the students to practice these sentences in the context of real writing situations. So not only are the students learning to recognize these types of sentences, but they're also learning how to write these sentences intentionally, not just accidentally, until a variety of sentence structure just becomes part of them. A few years ago, I had some of my sixth graders who went on to seventh grade come back to me specifically to tell me that that day, their seventh grade English teacher had shown them a worksheet about compound complex sentences, and they were going to skip it because the teacher didn't think they were ready for it. Several students' hands went up, my former students, and they said, "Oh, we can write a compound complex sentence." And she looked at them funny and said, "Okay, prove it." So one of them came up to the board and went up and wrote a compound complex sentence. And she was a little surprised and she thought, "Oh, okay, I guess you are ready for it." So she went on to teach the worksheet and even had my students help the rest of the class how to burn the idea of a compound complex sentence into their brains using the same tricks they learned from these worksheets. So the proof is in the results there. They really work and the students remember them. Here's an example of a sentence combining worksheet just to kind of get them rolling into turning shorter sentences into longer, more complex sentences. So you can see here, the first example says, the high school band gave a concert. It lasted for an hour. Well, you don't need two sentences for that. They can tell that it means the concert. Just put them together and don't waste two sentences saying something you could have said in one. So you could have just said, the high school band gave a 1 hour concert. Or the high school band gave a concert which lasted for an hour. Either way, you're giving the same information and you're doing it more efficiently. Consequently, if you add Writing Tricks Plus with this, you're really supercharging the student's ability to write excellent sentences with a variety of sentence structure and learning all kinds of grammar and punctuation rules in the process. When I taught third grade, this was one of my favorite mini books. It wasn't even a mini book at the time. It was just worksheets I had put together. Most students understand to turn a noun into a plural, for most words, you just add an S. So if there's one car, the plural for car becomes cars, and you just add an S. But in English, we have several groups of words that really don't follow that rule. So these worksheets are meant to help students get those words burned into their brains. And it's fun because there's a bunch of little tricks that they could come up with to help remember the differences or to learn the rules. And then we have a big contest at the end and see who can get a perfect score on the final test. So they're really motivated. I give out raffle tickets at the end and we give away prizes. So they're really motivated to get a perfect score on this. The really tricky area are the words that end in O. Now, in most cases, if a noun ends in O, you just add an S. But there's several words that end in O that actually get an ES. I don't know if there's an official rule for these words, but my students helped me come up with a trick, and you can see the words there that should have an ES. And we just came up with a funny little trick that if you can eat it, or if it can save you or hurt you, then you add an ES. That works for potatoes and tomatoes. You can eat them. And it works for heroes and tornadoes because they can save you or hurt you. But what about buffalo? How do we remember that you add ES to buffalo? Well, we just think of having a nice buffalo burger, and then it does fit the, if you can eat it, then you add ES. So that one's a lot of fun. They love being silly with that. So the spelling plural nouns, it's a fun little mini book. I know letter writing's become a lost art, but just an example from my life where it came into play, my nephew, who was in college, had to send a letter to some government agency requesting something that he needed desperately. He had no idea how to set up a letter, how to address an envelope, or even put a return address on the envelope. I told him, well, search it. He just didn't feel confident. So we made sure that everything was set up properly and he got everything out okay. But it did illustrate that there are times where you actually need to send a physical letter. And if a student goes through the process at least once in their school career, it's not a bad idea. So the basic letter writing here gives a little bit of practice for that skill. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with the bundles. If you see several books here on the site and you think these are for you, you can get a deep discount on purchasing the books because you could get the bundles. So you can check out the different bundles here. Basically, it just takes the 3-book bundle, the core, I call it the One Simple Trick bundle, or it's just the 3-book bundle. And you've got a really strong foundation there with those. But then you could add the complete writing program, and that just puts it all together. Then there's the 5-book bundle, which adds Writing Tricks Plus, which has a lot more worksheets about writing tricks than the complete writing program. That's a very popular chapter. It's a great book all by itself. If you want to add it with the complete writing program and the other books, excellent resource to have. It really helps students write stronger sentences and use more of a variety of sentence structure. Then, with the 6-book bundle, you can add standards-based grammar, and you would be completely set for the year with writing, grammar, punctuation. You could use the grammar book for individual skills or use it as a complete grammar program. It's an excellent resource either way and still very affordable. And finally, the last 2 bundles are for homeschool teachers, but really can be used by all teachers. First, the Homeschool Bundle, which replaces the grammar book with the Homeschool Writing Action Plan. I'll end this video with a more detailed description of the Homeschool Writing Action Plan. But basically, it helps the teachers pace their writing instruction over the span of several years. Now, a regular classroom teacher who only has students for 1 year, it would still be really helpful on where to start and for how to really get the most out of it for that single year. But it's really powerful for the homeschool teachers because they have their own students for multiple years and they can really glean every little nugget out of this writing program. Finally, there is the Homeschool Super Bundle, which just adds a grammar book to the Homeschool Bundle. Basically, you'd have everything that we've got all in that bundle at a really amazing price. Okay, so let's look at the Homeschool Writing Action Plan. What this book does is it helps homeschooling teachers pace everything you've seen here, from how to teach the paragraph to the research report to the complete writing program, all the different grammar skills, punctuation skills. How do you bounce from book to book to book and get the most out of the program? So what if you're starting at 3rd grade? Okay, you have lots of time. They're emerging writers, so you can really take your time and it shows you how to pace it. So by 8th grade, they're really outstanding writers. Well, what if you're starting in high school and you've only got a couple years left and you really want to get the most out of this? It shows you, okay, if you have older students, start here. Here's your pacing. And this resource could really be good for public and private school teachers as well, if you need an idea of how to put all the pieces together. But if you're an experienced teacher, I'd say just start with the paragraph, go to the 5-paragraph essay, and then as you're doing it, throw in lessons from the complete writing program. Almost every year, I end the year, the last 2 months, with the research report. In 1 year, my advanced students, they're basically ready for college. And those are my 6th graders. Anyway, Thank you so much for checking out createbetterwriters.com. I hope you see something here you can use. If so, go check out the links. That'll take you to more information about the books. You can download free samples. And I just want to say good luck and go create better writers.
CreateBetterWriters.com